Hi, I'm Allison Hare, a former corporate executive turned coach and keynote speaker for women making big moves. And I'm on a mission. I'm on a mission to help you and me create more space and time and freedom and fulfillment in our busy lives. Welcome to the Late Learner Podcast, where here we are breaking convention. We are ditching the outdated norms that we have all been taught to live in, and we find more modern solutions that just plain work better for you. So what are we late learning today? Well, we are taking a decidedly hard left pivot, and we are doing a cultural deep dive into the new buzzy movie that everyone is talking about. Oh my God, The Substance. It is starring Demi Moore. You may have seen it. Margaret Qualley, Dennis Quaid, and it is directed and co-produced, written and directed by Coralie Fargeat. Fargeat. I'm not sure how you pronounce her name. It is French, but it is a beautiful Coralie Fargeat. Fargeat. Now, why am I talking about this? First of all, normally I do a lot of interviews and I talk about new ways of living life, right? Usually that break convention. And I have been thinking about some of these cultural things that are happening usually in pop culture that I feel like have such an important correlation to where we are as women today. And this just knocked me right out of my seat. And I realized I need to go deep in this. So I knew I wanted to go see the movie. Demi Moore has kind of been doing the promotional rounds on it. And it is about an aging star, an aging actress who is trying to look perfect. I'll kind of go into that later. But I got a promotional email or an email from somebody I'm on her list. And she was talking about going to see this movie that she was told you need to see The Substance in the movie theater in a packed theater. What? Not streaming at home, in a packed theater. And she said she saw it and she was shocked awake. So, wow. I immediately said, all right, cleared my calendar and I went and saw it. Now, before we jump in, I need to ask you, do you get my weekly newsletter? It's called the Reinvention Roadmap. It is a completely free way to go one-on-one with me. Every week, I'm sending you relatable insights, brave strategies, and clear action steps to help you get to your next best chapter. And it always ends with a little fun twist. So all you need to do is just go to AllisonHare.com/email and get on the list. Now, also, as we are looking at closing out the end of this year, if you're looking for a more personalized way to reinvent your future on your own terms, I've got a couple of spots left to work with me one-on-one for a 3-month outcome-driven coaching engagement. So if you've been considering making a big life change or start that podcast or make a career change or make a big family change. Maybe you're looking at divorce or moving or a blended family, whatever it is, but you're not sure. Maybe you just have a schedule that's so busy. You don't know how to find the space and clarity to make the changes that you want. Let's get on a free call to brainstorm. No obligation. Go to AllisonHare.com/schedule. Okay, let's get into The Substance. My Lord. Okay. I have not stopped thinking about this movie. And not only that, I'll give you the kind of movie premise. Okay. I'm not going to do any spoilers. So the premise is that there is a woman, her name is Elizabeth Sparkle. And Elizabeth Sparkle is an aging star, a woman that had been celebrated for her beauty, for her perfection, for her body, her entire life. And she gets to this point where she is no longer being considered for jobs and even gets fired from her job because she is aged out. So she gets this opportunity to, it's this mysterious opportunity to get an injection that would essentially split her DNA into two, but be able to essentially duplicate herself in, and I'm using the words that they used in the movie, a younger version of herself, a more perfect version of herself, younger, perfect. I think there's one, I'm forgetting what it is, and she, in a moment of weakness, decides, she's desperate and can't really figure out what it is. So she does it. And as you can imagine, the younger version and the older version live essentially two different lives, right? And so the agreement is that she lives in her, let's say, older body, her existing body for 7 days, and they have to do a body swap every 7 days. And then the younger one goes and, roams around free. And then they switch every 7 days, and they are required to kind of keep each other alive during that time when the sleeping self is essentially comatose. So it's such an interesting perspective with it, because the movie premise is so interesting to me. And really, this is told through the lens of Demi Moore's character, right? It is told through her lens as her inner battle, but also through the exaggerated view of the male gaze, the male's version of what perfection is, the male's version of a more beautiful, more perfect, younger self. And what I think is interesting about this, I didn't realize, and I'm not going to give any spoilers, but truly, I was not expecting what I saw. I don't think there's any way to prepare you for what you'll see. And what I didn't realize is that this is a genre called body horror. Body horror. Wow. This is not something I normally watch, but when I saw Demi Moore, somebody that I've grown up with and is so incredibly beautiful and perfect, truly, that I thought it was so interesting to cast a woman that you would look at, generally speaking, and say, oh my God, if I could only look like that at 61. She's beautiful. She has dark hair. I mean, they're probably extensions, probably dyed, and she's clearly had work done, but it is such impeccable work that you can't really see other than maybe her lips, where it's pretty obvious. But she has this beautiful body. And what I think is so interesting about it, as I'm watching this, as it's unfolding, like the body horror part was so over the top, I was nauseous. Like I literally considered walking out. And I feel like, I don't know if I am not smart enough or sophisticated enough. And I often feel this way in a lot of movies, actually, unless it is like a romantic movie, in which I totally get, but like a movie that's like outside of a genre that I understand and outside of certain things, that I kept watching the movie going, I don't get it. I don't know that I get it yet. It's so gratuitous, the horror part. And the way they do this, which is so interesting, is they really use visuals. They use like the fisheye lens for certain things where they exaggerate a lot of the visuals. There isn't a lot of dialogue in this movie, but they turn up the sound effects, and you'll know, because people are talking about this all over the news, that the opening scene is her and Dennis Quaid. So Dennis Quaid is like the big movie or film producer that's essentially firing her. And he's disgusting. He's a scum, a misogynist, and he's eating shrimp. And it is the most disgusting, vile way to eat shrimp. And they said even in the filming that he must have eaten, I don't know, 4 pounds of shrimp that's like dipped in mayo, and you hear every single it's like what is it? The misophonia is so high for this that it's so gross. It is so grotesque. But the concept, I kind of want to dig into the themes of this, of like, all the male characters, like I said, there's not a ton of dialogue, but all the male characters are exaggerated versions of what we perceive a male, of what a male believes is beautiful, and essentially outsourcing your value to what they think. And so having this fisheye lens where Dennis Quaid's face is all blotchy, his teeth are all, rotting, and just, he's older and just laughing and eating disgustingly with food all over his face. And the sounds are so intense. And a lot of the scenes in this movie have men where they are typically old white men, truly, that have all the power, no consequences. So it's an interesting commentary because the movie holds back no subtlety whatsoever. And the message is so simple of it. And so, believe it or not, so I watched this movie. I'm absolutely horrified with what I saw. There was so much beauty in it. And the acting was unbelievable, but it was so gratuitous, the gore of it all, that I wanted to walk out. Like I went home, like, sure, I was going to barf. And the next day, even then, it took me like a day to recover, but I couldn't stop thinking about this. Now, the reason why this is so important to me is that many, many years ago, and I guess we all feel this way. We all feel this way of like the embedded programming and socialization over what is beautiful and the standards that a woman needs to keep to be able to be deemed valuable or attractive or viable in society, And I remember when I had my kids, I think it was when I had my first or second kid, I'm not sure which, but at the time I had no hobbies whatsoever. That'll come into play for a second. I had no hobbies. I would just work a lot. I had, newborn babies. And there was this show that came on. It was a reality show called Pretty Wicked Moms. So if you're in Atlanta, you may have recognized this. And I actually used to work with one of the cast members on Pretty Wicked Moms. So it was a reality show focusing on these fabulous mothers that, of course, have big personalities, clashing personalities. I don't even know what the point was, but it was like, moms, it wasn't even like a great show, but it was just, kind of showcasing beautiful, fabulous looking moms. And then, of course, they get into catfights and whatever. So when I saw this show and I knew somebody on it, she was somebody I used to work with, and all these women were beautiful. And I remember looking at that. And one of them, her name is Emily Bolden. And she owned a shop called Swank here in Atlanta. And Swank was like this high-end boutique, very colorful, very fabulous. And I don't know what happened. I know this sounds like a weird rambling story, but just hear me out. I went to the shop and I just wanted to look exactly like them. It was so important to me that I did not look like a harried, haggard mom whose life had run over her when she had kids. It was so important for me to remain looking unfettered and flawless and be fabulous and wear fantastic clothes and not put on a pound. I remember I used to say a lot, the only evidence that I have kids that I want on my body are my kids, not me. And so I had gotten into this incredibly obsessive, dysmorphic state where my pursuit of getting my pre-baby body back to not look unattractive, to make sure I went above and beyond all the time, to make sure I looked great from head to toe, was really overpowering and overwhelming. And it got to the point where I started to go see a trainer. I don't know that I've talked a lot. I know I've talked about like my bout with body dysmorphia and orthorexia and disordered eating and all of that. but I don't know that I ever went into the details. And at the time, I had gone to a trainer, and I don't think the trainer was very good. And I think she was kind of a new-ish trainer, but I'd never gone to a trainer before, like at the gym, regularly. And she would kind of do my intake and take measurements and stuff. And she took a BMI test. And at the time I was like 115 pounds. I really had no, extra skin other than my little pooch. And I was really obsessed over my baby pooch, and I wanted it gone. And she would say, your BMI is higher than I would like. It was like 22 or 23, where I think 30 is obese. And something snapped where I was like, oh my God, I need to get this off. That I went into a full spiral of trainers, nutritionists, health coach, food plans, weighing everything I ate, tracking macros. I just went into this deep, dark obsession where I wasn't present for my kid. I was only worried about food prepping. And it just was a really intense time. Like I really struggled with orthorexia, which orthorexia is when you're overworking out, and disordered eating, that I was so afraid that if I ate one Dorito, it would just be the end of me and I would become this obese person. And at the time I was over 40, or I was 40, and I'd started a new job. I was working at Salesforce. And I remember thinking, all the people here are so much younger than me. How do I look as young as they are? Like the thought of me not being valuable because I looked old, or being passed over an opportunity because I didn't take care of myself or didn't shine. And if you know me, if I'm being really honest, you know that I always wear bright colors, bright lipsticks. I love wearing bright, show-stopping clothes. And I think the reason for that is because I'm afraid if I dress in black like everybody else, I'll just fade into the background and I will not matter anymore. So watching a movie like this, and I went through a whole ordeal, truly, to heal, or to kind of overcome the disordered eating and body dysmorphia, and to the point where I had gotten a mommy makeover, which is like a tummy tuck and a breast augmentation. And it was horribly botched. It was horribly botched, to the point that I had to get 3 surgeries to fix it. There really was a major cost. So talking about the substance and the thought of like aging. So now I'm almost 50. I'm going to be 50 at the end of this month. 50. And I have always wanted to fight turning 50, looking 50. Like I color my hair, I do Botox and fillers. I, try and keep my skin well and my nutrition good and keep up with my body. But so much of it has been through a lens of vanity. And even, you think about all this stuff, like the aging in culture, like what is baked into our psyche is shave your legs, wearing makeup, dyeing your hair, whitening your teeth, wear lashes, or even mascara, everything to kind of enhance the desirability that comes along with youth in this culture. And, we are in a youth obsessed culture, and I'm fighting it. Like I'm fighting wanting to appear younger, to not fade into the background. And there's something, this kind of a sidebar, but it's kind of interesting. There's something called the morning shed. Have you guys heard of this? So the morning shed is this new trend where you go to bed and you put on a chin strap on your jaw, like to tighten your jaw. You put like the collagen eye masks under your eyes. You put a mask on your face, and you put like masks across your eyes. You put all kinds of stuff. So you essentially look like a post-operative patient who just had a facelift. But you do this every night, right? Go to sleep with all this crap on your face. And then you wake up in the morning shed, you take each of it off to reveal a beautiful, youthful, plump face. Oh, it's so crazy how far we've come, where I feel like we have come very far in terms of identifying how much we rely on our beauty and how much we continue to perpetuate this ideal of beauty that is all typically for the male gaze. So what do we do? Like there's even a point of almost like, so back to the movie for a second. I just feel like I've kind of grappled a lot with aging. And I think about, like, I look at my skin and I desperately want to get like a lower facelift and a neck lift and just pull everything up so I don't have to worry about seeing myself age. And I was listening to a podcast this morning, and it was this woman that talks about how adventure is the key to aging. And she said something, and it really just stuck with me. And she said, I don't want to be younger. I don't want to be younger. I want to embrace where I am and be proud of it. I don't want to feel younger. I want now to be my vibrance. And I think she's in her 60s. And I'm like, wow, I have never heard that. I have never heard age being celebrated other than you look so much younger, right? You appear so much younger. So like the redefinition of age is interesting. And back to the substance. The concept of the substance, and again, there are no spoilers here. But the concept is that these two, the younger version, the older version, they are one. That was the centralized message. But as you can imagine, the younger one wants to have a little more time. It's way more fun, right? As the younger one. And so she takes a little bit and it throws everything haywire. It throws everything off for the older version. But they are one. And so the thought is like us versus younger us. If we are one, why do we look at being younger as the real you? I wish I could get back to my pre-baby weight or my pre-baby bikini body. But if this is you now, it's just an interesting concept. So I had a lot of questions. I started going down a rabbit hole around, interviews of what this all means. And one of them is that people would ask Coralie, the director, why did you cast Demi Moore? Demi Moore looks perfect. She doesn't look like me, right? She looks like, what's her problem? And she said, because it is the same no matter who you are. And it doesn't matter how beautiful or whatever, you're always looking for the younger version of yourself. And I just thought that was really interesting that it happens. But I think what Coralie kept talking about in these interviews is the concept of violence. the self-violence, the violence that goes on in our head. And she kept using the word violence. And I wondered, have you ever looked in the mirror and gotten really upset? And you may have seen, there are clips of it, of Demi Moore, like putting on makeup. She looks perfect. And then in the movie, she's going on a date. And it's not a spoiler. But she's about to walk out to go on the date, looks back in the mirror, decides to put on more makeup, brighter makeup, feels like it looks worse, so she keeps putting on more and more makeup where it doesn't look as good. And she just gets so mad. She just wipes everything off, rips off her lashes, and she's just so angry. And I know that when I walk past a mirror, a lot of times, like, I'm caught off guard. Like, who is that? What happened? Did I let myself go? Is it letting myself go that I am aging, that there are sagging skin or whatever? It's just, I wonder if we can change. I don't know that I have any answers. And I know this probably feels like a rambling mess. But the message of the movie is really the absurdity of the ideals that we put on ourselves, or not that we put on ourselves, that we perceive are put on us, that we have integrated into our psyche. And what does it look like to unwind from that? Isn't that interesting? Violence. You versus the younger version of you. Are you at war? Are you at peace? And I think about, I'm not at peace. I'm not at peace at all with it. And I'm fighting it. And I wonder, the difference between wanting to look a certain way. I enjoy having my hair brown and not gray and wiry or whatever it is. I enjoy the bright lipsticks. I enjoy it. But I wonder how much of it is covering me looking older or not like I used to. So it's just an interesting perspective. I'm curious to get your thoughts if you've seen it or if you will see it. Again, for me, it was so relentlessly absurd. What was interesting is even being in the theater, there were a lot of people laughing at some of the most horrific parts. And I don't know if that's like a body horror thing or a nervous laughter, or that it was so over the top that you couldn't help but laugh. It was just wild, y'all. And I think it's an important film. I don't know that I do not have the stomach to watch it again. There's no way. But having seen it, I'm glad I saw it. I'm glad that I understand the message enough to consider rethinking my position and how I treat myself. Or maybe you treat yourself. Maybe you found peace with it. A lot of times when I've released episodes or write blogs on this topic, I always have very interesting responses from people that are in all areas of the spectrum with no judgment of just, Allison, I know where you've been, I have come to a better place with it, or whatever it is, and it's an interesting perspective that I think deserves more conversation. And I'm just happy that the substance is out and having this conversation. I want to thank you for listening. I know this is a little bit of a pivot from the format of my other episodes, and I hope you like it. If you do, let me know. If you don't, let me know. I'm interested because there are some big changes and shifts that are happening with this podcast. And I'm so grateful. I've been doing this for 5.5 years, this podcast. And I think there is a direction that is emerging that I'm really excited about. I'm hopeful that you will come along with the journey and share with a friend. And I hope you share this episode with a friend. And I hope you leave a review and talk about it in your own circles, because that is how culture changes, when we see and we hear each other and we have meaningful discussions about things that matter and things that occupy our space in our minds that maybe go unsaid for too long. So with that, thank you for listening. And if I don't see you on the socials where I usually hang out, I'd love to hear you. Send me a DM. Let me know that you heard this episode. Then I will see you next time Late Learner drops.